Please be aware this will be a spoiler-filled discussion. Hello and welcome to the Minority Arts Appreciation Society, where we're ticking all the boxes and providing the much-needed minority opinion in popular internet discourse. I'm Tilly, my pronouns are she and her, and I lead the film discussions.
I'm Josh, my pronouns are he and him, and I lead the movie discussions.
And today we're going to be talking about M. Night Shyamalan's latest blockbuster, Old. Simply Old. It's a great title. Such a catchy, memorable title. Every time I've said I'm seeing Old to someone, they've said, "What's Old?" Because it's a shit title. Like it's not had bad marketing. It's just a bad title that no one remembers. I hate that name so much.
I still think it should have been called The Beach That Makes You Old. I think that would have been a great
Yeah,
title.
100%. Like also because it's why the meme "the beach that makes you old" is so funny. It's because it's such a fucking simplistic premise, and the name of the film is just the premise, but not in like, I mean, obviously that's a lot of movies. I don't know though. It's like if you named any ocean movie just The Ocean. It's fucking terrible.
There are
Uh,
some good memes there.
there are some
There's a
great
great
memes.
Ramona Flower ones of her eating the bread saying, "The beach makes you old."
The beach makes you
The
god.
beach
Yeah.
makes you
Oh, the
old.
beach makes you old. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Uh,
That's really funny.
but yeah, I mean,
Uh,
so what inspired your decision to choose this film?
I knew that at the very least this film was going to be pretty batshit. Like, it's the beach that makes you old. Like it looked like it was going to be at least silly, and M. Night Shyamalan is in a much more interesting place in his career from a meme perspective than he was like 10 years ago, because he has recently, in recent memory, made a good movie. Rather than, say, if I picked, I don't know, like Avatar the last. Say if we were doing the podcast in 2011 or whenever he made that movie, and I picked Avatar, it would be like, I mean, okay, but like it's just gonna be a bad movie. Whereas like he didn't make Split that long ago. Like it was only the film he made before the last one, which I know wasn't generally considered a good movie, but I was like, this will be interesting. It's also just the audacity of this film was like incredible. I wanted to see how it worked because I watched the trailer and I just immediately went, why don't they just leave? Um and
Well,
I so I wanted to watch it and just be like, how does this work?
mm,
How do they make this an entire movie? I feel like this is the most kind of pulpy premise movie he's done in a long time. Like it's very horror. It's just a pretty like conventional horror premise. Like there is a place and it does a bad thing, and that's kind of it. It's not really about like characters or anything like that. Like I don't know. It's a very simplistic film, and I was just curious as to why he was making it. Um, because he's just a perplexing director.
I think I find M. Night Shyamalan to be a very challenging director because he's incredibly earnest and generally
Exactly.
well-meaning, and
Yeah.
like it's not even that some of his films are mid. Like he wildly oscillates from just the most like for me, The Last Airbender is one of the most offensively bad films I've seen. Like it actively makes me upset if it was
Yeah,
disrespectful. Like
yeah.
to me as a fan of the source material,
100%.
um, it hurts me.
It's a
And then like
rude film. It's a
Yeah,
rude film.
it's awful. And then like I almost cried at the end of Split. There's an amazing scene where James McAvoy has, his standout line, the broken are more evolved, like saying it through like gritted teeth, almost tears, as he finally kind of recognizes the main character as like him, you know? And it's beautiful. It's like such a tender handling of, you know, um neurodiversity,
Yeah,
a metaphor for this guy, and I was like, how is this the same dude? Does he just
I know.
choose to hurt me sometimes?
I don't know. I know this is a thing that everyone says with him,
Hmm.
but like, yeah, it just makes me want to talk about his movies. Like, I don't know, because I know I'm gonna get something. Like, I'm gonna get something. Um, I think one thing I wanted to talk about before we got into the film was our theater experience talking about this.
Yeah.
Going to see this rather. Um, I feel like we channel Red Letter Media occasionally on this podcast, and that is something they will frequently do. Um, Josh, would you like to describe it?
So we went to see this at an Odeon, uh, changing the pace from our usual kind of local independent small cinema. Because it kept getting pulled from cinemas. Like we kept trying to organize to see it, and then it just kept getting pulled. I guess it had been out for like 3 weeks, but I don't
That
know.
it
For
was.
me, I was trying to organize it, and it felt like the film did not want to be watched. Like it was actively aggravating to pin down where we could watch it. Then we finally get to the cinema, and it's a huge room, no seats filled, absolutely empty, and it's like an extremely late viewing, like 11:30.
It was very late. Yeah.
Yeah, and then two sets of people came in. One of them seemed like a couple, but was sat two seats apart.
Yeah,
Uh,
like they came in together and
Yeah.
didn't sit next to each other, which was extremely weird. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care how comfortable you are as a couple, that's fucking weird. I think in with the way cinema seats are, you gain no more comfort from it. And it was like from my perspective, it looked like they'd had an argument and then had gone, well, we have to see old now. And it was so
Like, yeah.
strange.
I was describing it to another friend of mine, and he was like, "Oh, sometimes like you have an argument on the way to the film, and you just stick it out through the film." And I'm like, man, but old? Like, this is the film you're gonna like have this uncomfortable. And then the other group that came in was like two young people who looked like friends. I
Yeah, they
my
were
theory is that
chill.
they were cinema hopping. I don't think they bought a ticket for this. I think they finished the film and then walked into a random screen and then left after half an hour and they realized it was incredibly
It
dull.
it was incredibly, incredibly dull. Um, but yeah, it was just. I think the reason it felt significant was because when we first got there, we basically had this massive screen to ourselves, and I genuinely just was sure that no one would come in because who is going to see old at 11:30 in the evening? And I think you're right about the non-couple. I think they were just wandering in, like they were very carefree.
Mm.
And I feel like you're not coming into to old 11:20 unless you've got some shit going on. And like, cause
Mm.
I was just like, for the couple, I was just like, why? Like, it was, it, I just felt sad for them. There was something really sad about that. I honestly didn't see them speak a word to each other, like, when it
Mm.
ended, before it begun. Or were they late? Anyway, yeah, that was
Yeah, I
very
mean
strange.
there were points in the film where you and I were being jokeified. Like we fell into, fits of laughter that, couldn't be stopped. Just at
Yeah,
how unbelievable what was happening in front of us
um,
was how like, oh, this is real. Like, how is this allowed to be released? You know,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
and the
In
people
which
in front of us,
case,
there's no response, no reaction. It's
yeah,
really not.
that it was so. I I kind of half expected them to like at some point turn around and be like, "This is a load of fucking shit, isn't it?" It would. They just sat there. It is 2 hours, and they just didn't like emote or anything. And I'm like, it was bizarre. Like it was really strange. I think we can just get on to old then, to
Hmm.
the masterpiece of podcast discussion material that is old. Um, Old is one of the most shockingly bad films I've seen in a long time. In terms, like, I forgot how bad he could be, but just the talent here. Like, a lot of these are really good actors. Like, Gael Garcia Bernal, great actor. Alex Wolff, Hereditary, amazing actor. Why are these people here? And when I saw those people in the trailer, it was one of the reasons that I thought, oh hey, maybe this will be a good movie, because the other Shyamalan film I've seen is The Happening, and he got Mark Wahlberg and Zoe Deschanel, which I feel like is very like that doesn't that doesn't give me any kind of expectation of quality.
Hmm.
Not that Zoe Deschanel is like bad or anything, but just she doesn't carry that kind of weight. Uh, and it was just it was exactly that thing of, I can't believe this is genuine. I've mentioned on the podcast before that I love watching bad horror films, and I really don't mind. I will tolerate films where it's kind of clear that they didn't give a fuck. I mean, if you watch bad horror films, that's going to happen. Uh, but I can safely say that this was as bad in terms of quality as films where someone clearly didn't care. But this was like, he's in this movie. He speaks in this movie. Like, this is not, he's famous for like giving a shit about all of his projects, and I just I I can't, like, it was just this amazing moment of just realizing the audacity of this film's existence.
Well, I think what's really alienating about this film is I genuinely think he does care about this. Like, I think
Yeah,
he works
yeah.
hard on it. And I think the only good thing about the film for me personally was how it was shot. Like, there are really gorgeous shots in this, and there's a video in Vanity Fair, on that channel where he breaks down the initial kind of kids playing in the beach that makes you old. And there's a really like weird and cool shot where like one of the kids is frozen and the camera's doing like a panoramic kind of rotation around him. And it's like really surreal. And then you realize they're playing tag, and he's tapped and unfrozen. And then the camera sits, moves, becomes full of motion as it follows them running around, and then freezes again. And it's like, he's breaking it down. He's like trying to, like, I was trying to do like this impressionistic shot of this metaphor of kind of the transitory kind of feeling of youth, the kind of
Mm,
them, they're going to be frozen as children. It's a metaphor for like what will happen to them in the film, but also kind of capturing the wonder of kind of being lost in time as a kid. um and it's like, watching that video, I was like, man, this guy really was trying. Like, he thought he was making a
it's
banger. And that is a good shot. It's just, but all the good shots feel like out of place and weird next to the god awful script. Like, remember earlier on as well when they're just in their hotel and there's this really great shot where the I think the wife is in focus, everyone else is not in focus, and the dad's playing with the kids, and the camera's kind of like panning back and
mm,
forth. It almost reminds me
mm,
of a shot from Hereditary, like how that shoots houses as if they're doll houses.
Yeah.
He does care.
Yeah. No, he does care. He does care. And so I think I'm choosing here between what is the worst, what really killed the movie for me I mean, it was everything, but what if there was one thing I could single out, and I'm really choosing between the performances, which were, I'm gonna say, across the board bad.
Unironically, the only performance I enjoyed in this was M. Night Shyamalan himself. He was the only one who felt natural when he spoke.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
extremely weird.
You missed the bus ride
Yeah.
bit, and that was quite. But I mean, it's fucking nothing.
But
It's
at the end, when
nothing.
he comes in and he's like, they didn't survive. I'm going to report back. It was like,
Oh yeah,
I'm in a
that was
movie again for like a
yeah.
minute.
No, it
Like, it
was
was funny
so
and interesting.
strange. It
Yeah.
was so strange. It it was between the performances and the script, and I think I have to come down on the script because I think this is what makes this film so confusing. Is it's shot like a film that is very passionately made, but the script is like genuinely a joke to me. I've put a spoiler warning at the beginning of this episode as normal, but the reveal that all of this is a science experiment is genuinely like pre-film school. Like, if you came to that is a joke of a story moment that you would make in film school, that your horror premise is really just a scientific experiment for a conspiratorial malicious pharmaceutical corporation. And like, I couldn't believe it when the film actually did that. It was because this man has made good movies and made movies for 20 years, and and he has that plot point in his film. Like, I couldn't believe it. After everything that had gone on already throughout the film, really sort of tried and tired cliches of, disharmony in the group, someone tries to get out and they die kind of thing. Really labored, boring stuff. I thought the script couldn't sink any lower, and that was shocking. It wasn't even embarrassing. I was just so surprised that this made its way into like a a movie by someone who cares. I
Well, I think to like help the audience visualize if you're like experiencing the film vicariously through us, how the film kind of goes is they're at
Yeah.
this resort and then they all go to the beach that makes you old, which like the bushy resort people kind of get them all to do, like, hey, you should go to this beach. And then as it goes, you kind of get like the standard horror, like each person dying in a sort of like Lord of the Flies agitated group killing each other, or trying to escape and dying and whatnot, and they're picked off one by one. And and with the script, I think with what Tilly's saying about, I think my main issue with the script is it feels like AI generated.
Yeah, this is
It
what
feels
I
like you
mean.
fed an AI a bunch of like film scripts and it spat out like there are just lines where they just say the theme of the film and then say the illness they have and then say the profession they have, to the point where I wasn't sure if it was like meant to be funny or not.
Yeah.
Because it's so like, this character has this condition and this will be important later on. The kind of writing. Like and then it's revealed that it's all a medical experiment, and that this we never find out why the beach makes you old, which was what disappointed me, because I want the
Yeah.
twist to be,
Uh,
why does the beach make them old? That's all I want to know.
Definitely, like, the
Yeah.
next greatest sin of the script for me is absolutely no. I think they said something about magnetic something. I don't know. It was a very strange. And then the other thing was oh yeah, they also never truly explain why they can't leave. You see why they can't leave, as every
Yeah.
time they go to this
It's
point, they get a headache.
they well, part of it So a problem with this film is I tried to write I wrote I think 4 bullet points of things that I was confused about on my
Yeah.
way home after we watched it while I was fresh in my mind. And it's really hard to get a grip on what the stakes are, like what the rules are of this beach. So
Yeah.
for example, like the baby died. So what okay, this is a really creepy, weird plot point. There's a thing where Nat Wolff's character and his sibling characters and the other kids on the beach are like aging rapidly, but their brains are kind of like still
Yeah,
children's
it's
brains, but they're just
yeah.
being force fed puberty hormones. So there's this line about how like I have more colors in my head than I had before, or something when she tries to articulate it. And 2 of them have sex, which is really weird and
It was
creepy.
a really
Uh,
weird moment.
so the baby's born in like 10 minutes because time is moving like yonkers. And then and then and the baby dies because time passes and no one had paid attention to the baby. The nurse dies because he got old while trying to swim out or something.
Is that what? But
No, you're
also,
yeah.
okay, you've reminded me of another thing. Why did that woman also swim out at the beginning? What happened to her?
Well, maybe I oh scratch what I said about the nurse getting old. Was it? Didn't they say something about how it's like you're moving too fast through?
Ugh,
I it was very poorly explained. Like
it's
moving too, they
so
described it as like rapidly. It's like the velocity of the time plus you moving really quickly. But then at the end, they just swim away at the. I don't really understand, if I'm honest with you, why the nurse
yeah,
died when
yeah,
you try to
yeah,
swim
yeah,
out.
yeah. 100%.
If anyone has seen this film, please leave a comment or send us an email explaining the swimming
No,
death.
genuinely, please. I can understand the nurse dying purely just because, like, what the sea and drowning,
Hmm.
but there seems to be some like link between
Hmm.
the fact that 2 people have swum out and not made it back. Well, especially, it's just never explained why the woman you get the very exploitative and gross shots of taking her clothes off swims out at the beginning. Like we that's never
Hmm.
explained. That's never
I
explained.
Well, I think there was a thing, like you said, there was some weird mumbo jumbo about magnets or magnetic field or some sort of thing. And I think there was a thing at the end where when the 2 kids actually made it out, they were swimming through the coral reefs where, like, I think it disrupted the whatever, psychobabble wave, uh, science contrivance makes the island make you old.
Yeah.
So I think you're pushing against the current in like a
Uh,
like the magnetic, it just crushes
okay.
you. I don't really understand, if I'm honest. Again, I would like
Yeah.
someone to explain.
Oh
But
God,
my
no.
main confusion is if the baby dies of starvation. I'm sorry, the baby dies of no attention, right? Why aren't they
What?
all constantly dying of starvation? Like, what do they need to constantly be eating? Wouldn't this be the
Oh.
equivalent of going like 10 years without eating?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
is that a
Because
steak? Or
it should be. I mean, it's the like it's one of those movies that really opens itself up to interrogations of plot holes because we're very anti plot hole criticism people. I
It's not
feel
this
like
plot hole. It's like I just don't understand what the stakes are.
yeah,
Like I can't
no,
get invested in
exactly.
the drama because I don't understand what's at
Well,
risk.
that's when you need to criticize plot
Mm.
holes. Is when it genuinely affects the point of the film, and also just not um ah I I need in terms of explaining supernatural elements, I don't need, a thesis. I don't need a part where someone sits down and explains it all. But your explanation has to have some kind of internal logic. Like,
Mm.
or I don't I don't know. Because there are films where
But
something is just the case and it's just
yeah,
fine and it's
yeah.
just fine and that's just how it works. But normally those films kind of earn that, and it's part of the horror even is
Mm.
that it's never explained and it's just this
I
nightmarish thing
know,
that's come
but there
out of
needs to
nowhere.
be conversation
Yeah,
between
exactly.
the themes and like the sci-fi ideas. So
Yeah.
if the theme of the film is like, cherish every moment of your life because you grew up so quickly, and they say it's like out loud at the beginning, oh wow, they're so young, and one day they won't be, like, you know, don't take advantage time passing. But then the actual like twist and the elucidation of like what's happening scientifically here is feels completely detached from that theme. Like it doesn't build on the theme. It's just like it goes into this weird, like, evil science medicalization
Yeah. Yeah.
plot, which doesn't inform the theme in any way. Like I don't there needs to be a conversation there between theme and how the
No,
plot functions.
100%. I think this film made me think that he's a fucking hack because he just had this idea and then he Frankensteined a bunch of other elements on top of it to make it work. So he had this idea of like, okay, uh, cherish every moment of your life, place that makes you old. Okay, why are they there? Okay, they're on holiday. Okay, why would anyone like be there and this wouldn't be like a international investigation. If oh, okay, maybe the hotel's in on it. Okay, why is the hotel on it? The hotel has a malicious reason to be on it. They're a secret front for a medical organization. Like, and the drinks they get at the beginning are medicines, and the medicines work, and like it's none of that, like you say, has a through line of thematic resonance.
Hmm.
Nothing is like cohesive or consistent. Like the
Hmm.
best horror or sci-fi stuff, the reasons the horror is there is the same reason this is happening to those people, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So like, because it's that wonderful sort of parallel storytelling, it makes it really like when those two things come together, it's really powerful and meaningful.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, I'm
Yeah.
I'm struck and memorable because with this, I'm really struggling to remember why any of this happened because none of this has any point, and it's meant to have a point. Like this is
Hmm.
I I don't think I've seen a film try so much and fail so much in honestly years.
Hmm.
It is really committed to do. I never doubted for a second that this was a film made in earnestness and in good faith, to be honest. And it's just a complete fucking failure.
Another thing I think is a real bummer in this film is that it just doesn't it feels very unreflexive in terms of the tropes that it goes for. So like literally the first two people to die are black.
Yeah,
Um or non-white at least, which is extremely weird. Like
yeah,
in terms of a horror trope. And also, I found it strange how at the beginning of the film they're really suspicious and hostile of the rapper character. I think on the Wikipedia his name is mid-sized sedan slash Brendan. I assume that's his rapper name.
yeah.
Mid-sized sedan. And they're really like hostile. They think like he's the one doing the ordering or something. I don't know why they
I think they
suspect
just think
him.
he killed her. I think they just think
Oh
he killed her.
yeah. Well, they think he
Yeah,
killed the woman. As yeah. Well, they just think
yeah,
they're very. But then they literally watch the Charles's character, the surgeon with schizophrenia. They literally watch him like murder him with his hands, and then they're like weirdly chill with Charles after that. Like they don't really. He doesn't
yeah.
become the new
They do
target of like
nothing about it.
paranoia. And I'm like, I don't know. I just felt like there was some weird like racial undertones with
Oh,
who was targeted in the kind of you know children of
uh,
flies meltdown of the group.
100%. They just kind of like take his knife away and go, okay, okay, we're gonna leave it now. And oh, that character is awful. That character is so bad. He is ripped straight from the horror movies that I love to watch, like English guy who's pompous and a dick. Like, cannot get over how childish the characters in this are. They have nothing to them. They're so one-dimensional. And this guy, he's just a dick who goes crazy. And he secretly had an underlying schizophrenia, which is total fucking bullshit as well. Like his oldening made him more crazy and racist, so he killed the guy. Like it's so it's such a bizarre film. It's such a bizarre film.
It also goes on for an incredibly long time.
It's
Like
an incredible, yeah.
after the twist happens, you're like, okay, we're done. We could do like a cabin in the woods ending and just get out of here. Like, and then,
Yeah.
but no, it just like keeps going. Like you go back to the hotel and you see the kid from the beginning who was playing with the other kids but didn't get to go to the beach. Or the beach makes you old. And then the other kids who are like 60 something are like, able to fly back, and it's just like, man, I'm not invested in these characters enough to like see how they all turn out. Like this is incredibly dull.
It just keeps going. I literally got my phone out to see how long the film was, and went, it's 2 hours. Why is this 2 hours? It's so unnecessary. It's honestly just completely cut the. You could honestly take out the part at the end where it's a secret pharmaceutical thing and it never comes up before then. It's never hinted. Like, not even. The only thing is when she slightly strangely gives them custom made drinks at the beginning. But I didn't think anything of that when I first saw it. And honestly, maybe that was reshoots. Honestly, maybe that was reshoots because. But no,
Well,
it's so central to the ending. Like, it's completely edited that
I
way.
mean, it is. I think it is set up in terms of like the hotel are really coercive in getting them all to the island.
Yeah, it's
Um,
true. It's
and they
true.
only took the ones who had illnesses. So I think
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah,
I don't think
definitely.
it was
Yeah.
poorly set up. It's just for me, my issue with it is I never really cared about the mystery. This is
Oh, God, no.
probably, I think, the worst film I've seen of his. And I was thinking about The Happening. And you know what? The Happening is an awful film. But looking back, like, I
It
remember
makes
cool stuff.
sense.
The
It,
opening of The
it,
Happening when people are killing themselves for no reason, and it's like
yeah,
a pandemic of suicide. That is a good hook. I was
that's
like, I
horrible.
want to know why the people keep throwing themselves off the building. What's going on? And like when you find out the trees are making the people kill themselves because of climate change, first of all, that's a twist that is like thematically saying something. Even if it's a terrible film, it's trying to say something with the sci-fi
Yeah,
twist.
yeah, 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 yeah.
um,
The
but
pharmaceutical thing is just fucking irrelevant.
but yeah, I really did not care that the beach was making them old. Like it really
Yeah,
was not
uh,
interesting to me as a
a
premise in
hundred,
any way.
100%. It. Two things from that. Yeah, when they first got there and it just sort of started happening, it was like, wow, I really don't care. Like, there's really no agency to this. The way this is presented is so fucking uninteresting. They just kind of arrive and they slowly start getting old. I think one, I think it's a. I think it's a bad premise. I think I was intrigued at first, to be honest. I when I picked this film, I would have seen this film, um, even if we didn't pick it for the podcast, because I didn't think it was a bad premise. And seeing it now, it's a bad premise because watching people age quickly, but not that quickly where you can actually see them aging, isn't actually. It could be presented very horrifyingly. Like that is a I don't know. I don't know because this film, it just it's such a boring way of presenting everything. Like, oh, I actually can't be arsed with this movie, man. It was very funny while we were watching it, because I
It
simply couldn't believe that it existed. I
yeah.
couldn't. That was what I was laughing at mostly. Was just not so much so bad it's good. Just
No, it was not
wow,
that.
this is just more like wow, this is happening. Like this is a movie that was released.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think this type of film is just total kryptonite for me. Like in terms of sheer poison, like films where people are incapable of talking to each other in a way that's in any way kind of like relatable or personable. Like everyone sounds like a bot.
no one
It
sounds like a human
for me
being in
there's like
this
there's
film.
nothing to latch onto. Plus the premise being dull, not even like horrifically bad, just incredibly
Yeah,
boring, like a terrible Twilight Zone episode. Like it
yeah,
was so. I do remember like 30 minutes into the film, I felt like this distinct like, okay, I'm ready to like leave the theater. Oh shit, I'm trapped
yeah,
here for 90 minutes, and I just the jokifying laugh was more so like just how pointless and just I was like, why am I doing like what? Like it was just like I was just broken. Like I just there was I it just broke my brain a bit. Like I just there was
yeah.
nothing, absolutely nothing to glom onto. It was like staring at the wall. It was I don't know, man. It's just it was so empty for me. I have nothing. I just have nothing.
Yeah, it would. I I think it might be the. I don't. I think I might have to come down on, uh, just the people in this film being the worst part. But I guess that is just the script and the writing. But it's kind of all of it. It's the way they speak. It's the dialogue itself. The dialogue is actively infuriating because I can't believe someone had the like gall to write those words and think this is good, this is a final draft. I can't believe no one read it and said, hey man, this dialogue, I'm sorry, is fucking terrible, is embarrassingly bad. You have no right being a director for this long, like and having dialogue that fucking bad in your film. I have no respect for this man because of this film. I just I think the dialogue itself is completely objectively bad. Like I never ever want to use that expression, but I just I think it's fundamentally fucked. I think it is just completely robotic with nothing to glean from, no thematic resonance. I think if you're getting something out of this dialogue, it's all on you. Like that is all you projecting onto it, to be honest. Like there is nothing in here of value or worth or quality. And that's infuriating to be made into a like blockbuster like this. Um Oh, not blockbuster. I keep calling it that. It's not that. It doesn't feel like that. Uh, yeah, made me laugh at the time, but the more I think about this film, just the angrier I get that it exists. It's a very self-righteous film in its own existence. It's very like, ah yes, I exist. I am good. Fuck this movie, man.
I have nothing more to say.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
I'm
it's
done.
barren. And
I'm
that yeah.
done. Fuck this movie. Um, I feel kind of bad for every actor in this film. I think this is probably going to be, for all the people I recognize in this film, I'm confident this was career lows for all of them in terms of performances. Gael Garcia Bernal is probably, his wife Priska is pretty terrible. She's probably worse, but he is a close fucking second. He is terrible in this. Would you recommend this film, Josh?
No. And I never wanna I know I will have to watch bad horror films again, but it's just I know it's your thing. This genre just hurts me. Like it just man, this is nothing. It's just so
I need a break
It's
after
almost like
this.
nihilistic. It's just so meaningless to me.
Yeah, it is. I very much feel like the void has stared back at me. Like I looked into the damn void of shit, and now I feel like fucking shit. It. It's- well, yeah. I'll conclude by saying this is the lowest recommendation of any film on this podcast we've given. Before that, it was Silence of the Marsh for me. Uh,
That was kind of fun
and
though. Like I have fun memories of Son of
it's a silly movie. Like it's such a strange film, and there was that one moment of action that was good. There
Hmm.
was that 30 seconds of action that was good, and this there's genuinely nothing I can glean from this film beyond a couple of interesting shots. Uh,
Yeah. I think for me, this rivals the boring drama romance we watch, which I can't even remember the name of.
Only You. You always
Only
forget the name
You.
of Only You. Wow,
Yeah.
did you really hate Only You that much?
I think it's just as barren as this. It's like
Wow.
competently made. Like the
Yeah,
acting is good in that film, which I guess gives it a leg up over this.
yeah,
But
exactly.
in terms of things I look back on and just have no feeling, I just like feel
Yeah.
void. That's like that's that this and that, you know. It's just yeah, darkness.
I completely get that. I completely get that. They are yeah, they are in that same vein of just like, well, that was about very little, and I could take nothing from the things that that film was trying to say.
Mm.
Uh so yeah, uh don't recommend. Please don't irony watch. It was probably so funny because we were seeing it in a cinema. Like that gave it this like false grandeur. Obviously, seeing a film in a cinema is not like a grand thing, but like normally I watch silly little films like this on my TV. So seeing it there was kind of amazing. That was that was
Yeah.
that was probably the best part of that experience.
Yeah,
Seeing
it's like God, how did this get funding? I just don't understand.
it's
But
all
yeah,
on him,
I
all
you
on
know I
him.
recommend people if you want to scratch a bad M Night Shyamalan film, Mitch, go watch The Happening. You know, I think that's a
Yeah,
so bad it's good film. That's a really Mark Wahlberg gives a stand up performance. It's just you know,
and
it,
it's
yeah. I'd much rather people watch that for like irony poisons
yeah,
watching.
100%, 100%. Okay, awesome. What are we going to be talking about next week?
So next week, there was a recording mishap, so the schedule got messed up a bit. But we're gonna be continuing with the Joanna Newsom saga and talking about just two of Have One on Me. It will be a weird one because we recorded it before, so we'll be kind of like uh basically restating our thoughts and maybe reflecting on whether or not we or how we feel have changed because by then we would have heard just
Yeah,
three as well. But yeah, that'll be dropping next week.
sweet, awesome. Thank you very much for listening. Check out our socials. Don't watch this film. Thank you very much. Goodbye.